The following voices are, AI generated. Enjoy the video.
We're in our hotel playing the SpongeBob movie game. Before we begin, be sure to follow us on TikTok and subscribe on YouTube.
Once again, we'd like to give a shout out to Sonic the Hedgehog for collaborating with us. They got a TikTok as well. Now, let's give the fans our treat.
This paddy wagon must have cooking oil in its pickle wheels.
I'm probably the only Sonic to not have a racing game. Sure, I played that ride in Twinkle Park, but that was more of a beat-the-clock challenge than a full-on race.
It's still confusing that there's water underwater or goo in this case. I'm not a scientist, but I think the goo is probably denser water.
For God's sake, Amy, it's just a cartoon. You know logic is inconsistent, especially with these sea creatures.
You're almost at the end of the ride. Way to go, land critters. Now it's time for the desert level.
I'm not much of a 6th generation gamer guy because I'm only familiar with the Genesis classics and pretty much all the popular games and franchises that came out when I started joining the games. But I like this game so far.
I hate these enemies more than the robots from our previous games. These meanies are nasty and frustrating to deal with.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're not playing the game in its entirety. We're just going to show off the main portion of the levels. Basically a highlight reel, and we might have a few angry shouting moments, mainly from Amy.
Now that's just rancid. This flying enemy spits or vomits up goo that makes you slip. This game is harder than Battle for Bikini Bottom. The enemies are not only downgraded in design quality, but they're even harder and annoying to defeat.
Yeah, the robot enemies from the previous SpongeBob game had a better charm and were actually given names, unlike these unknown random bad guys. You know this game's enemies are not only harder to deal with, but they're lamer too. Can't think of any other game that does that with enemies.
I also noticed that SpongeBob's attacks aren't bubble-themed like the previous game. He uses his karate gloves as his main attack and a boxing glove for the jump attack instead of the bubble wand and Viking helmet bubble.
Heavy Iron Studios probably didn't want to be that lazy bringing back my bubble attacks, so they went with my karate gloves and boxing gloves. The only thing I liked better than the bubble missile that I got in the previous game was my guitar attack called the Sonic Wave.
The Sonic Wave? If we'd have a guitar attack that does that, one of us would have called it the Blue Blur Symphony or something else, but as for that move, let's call it the Hedgehog Wave. Just for this video, since there are 3 Sonics.
We'll have to wait a while to get the Hedgehog Wave. For now, let's get through this level and shut up Plankton's towers.
Knuckles would have loved this game even more if he was in it just to eat the Krabby Patties. I think it's better to have your sea burgers as health in the game instead of your underwear, SpongeBob. I'm the only hedgehog in this chat that wears underwear.
Really? I didn't know that. You're probably going to try out the bungee jumps later on. That is a giant wedgie. Too bad Patrick can't do that, despite the fact he wears underwear too, particularly the Goofy Goober Peanut Party underpants in the movie. He's that much of a worshiper of the Goofy Goober.
I don't bungee jump because I have too much fun playing with the hooks. I was in a tuna can after I made SpongeBob jump off the hooks back then. Maybe that's why I don't bungee jump with the hooks. I've had wedgies several times from Sandy when I kept kicking her when Squidward needed his marching band.
I love a little exploration since these treasure chests unlock bonus content. At least they have a lot of interesting concept art, movie trailers, and other trinkets and surprises.
What's also different about getting the upgrades and new attacks is the point system. After getting a certain amount of manly points, unlike Battle for Bikini Bottom, where you just get the new attack after progressing the game, and they don't get upgrades. Not to mention we used a cheat code, getting all the Krabby Patty health upgrades, so we can beat enemies faster.
Okay, the boxing glove is now made of metal and has spikes like in the episode I'm Your Biggest Fanatic. Heavy Iron really made deep-cut references to your show. Plankton needs to keep his tiny mouth shut.
We forgot to mention that this game is a lot more linear than the previous game. Battle for Bikini Bottom has a hub world like Sonic Adventure, 06, and Unleashed, but in this game, you only use the pause menu to get into the levels and missions.
Hey, now that was clever. The tower was destroyed, and a little bridge was made. I would love a SpongeBob game similar to my games. A fast-paced sea sponge going around different worlds and taking time roaming around at the speed of sound and in town. I bet there are Sonic mods of SpongeBob and vice versa.
I was the quickster, remember? Being fast isn't something new to me. I got better training with Sandy after I was using the anchor arms.
Plankton must have really been power-hungry making those poor jellyfish wear those bucket helmets. I wouldn't be surprised if he made the jelly patties like what Mr. Krabs did in the episode Jellyfish Hunter.
Another thing about these enemies is that they actually dress differently on each level. That's actually creative, but they're still difficult, lame, and annoying at the same time.
The fish you hear in the background are assholes to SpongeBob and Patrick. The only good thing Dennis did was ripping their mouths so they can shut up.
You guys said there are new missions and mini-games unlike the previous game, right? Tell the fans what they are.
The one right where we're going is the SpongeBall Challenge, where I'm at a maze floating and I'm a ball. The other minigame has Patrick going through floating blocks.
Step back, boys. Ladies first. I can do this.
I was gonna say starfish first, but this isn't my minigame. The other missions are getting across giant rings, beating time limits, and beating the macho time limit in both the slide and driving levels.
Holy shit! This is just like Super Monkey Ball, but in SpongeBob form.
This is why we need to cross over with the sea creatures as they take inspiration from the other Sega franchises. Everyone in my era loves Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but hate the difficult levels.
I changed my mind. How about one of you play this?
Nope. Don't even think about it, Pink Hedgehog. This already looks easier than a single Super Monkey Ball mission. Consider yourself lucky that the first mini-games are usually easy.
Shadow's right. Firsts are always easy. Every SpongeBall minigame gets harder than the last.
And the floating block challenges get harder, but not as hard as SpongeBob rolling as a ball.
Oh my god! These blocks keep going back and forth. I don't want to fall down already.
Save the anger for later, babe. We don't want you to scream and rage again like last time when we played the Ratchet and Clank demo.
You jinxed it, 4-Kid Sonic. Your Amy already screamed, but she's lucky SpongeBob didn't fall all the way down.
My Amy would have given up already after one try. She's more of a one try and no continues type gamer like in the old days when Sega and Nintendo were at their war.
Oh yeah, your Amy is the queen of beating old 8-bit and 16-bit games with no continues.
Really? I bet she could beat my oldest games, Legend of the Lost Spatula on Game Boy Color or Super Sponge on PS1.
Maybe they shouldn't, SpongeBob. Our oldest games have tank controls. Dear Neptune, they're busted.
I beat both those games, and they're reasonably challenging for me and the other Shadows to play, but not for kids or SpongeBob fans, and definitely not for the rest of every Sonic crew member.
Jesus, that felt good. I hope I get better with these mini-games.
Now here's the first Patrick minigame. Another minigame we forgot to mention is the Battle Arena, where you fight swarms of enemies as SpongeBob, and they multiply as you progress. We already beat the first one in the Goofy Goober level.
This one actually looks like a walk in the park. Patrick's floating block challenges are slightly easier than the SpongeBall challenges.
I know I have a better chance of beating Patrick's challenges faster than the SpongeBall ones.
I don't know, but there are times when one part of my challenges gets really hard and throws you off, but everything else is easier.
It's also quite a bizarre change that instead of golden spatulas and Patrick's socks as collectibles, it's Goofy Goober tokens and treasure chests.
Why does Patrick have socks? He doesn't even wear shoes.
I was gonna ask the same thing. He also doesn't wear a shirt.
I just collect my socks, and my skin is like a coat. It just looks nasty when I take it off. Just ask SpongeBob when we fought over being clean and dirty.
Your show sure has a lot of plot holes and inconsistencies, unlike most cartoons. Most of them are episodic and canon, but your cartoon is more nonsensical and full of crazy moments that rarely happen again.
We already pointed out that logic is also thrown out the window in the cartoon, such as fire underwater, and Plankton selling chum and chum is a kind of fish. Even fish sticks are sold, so cannibalism is normalized for laughs.
Yeah, I've seen people making videos and whatnot about how my show works, and how Bikini Bottom itself is full of toxic fish and confusing government. So many things about my world is just not right for your world, land critters.
You almost fell, 4-Kids Amy. Some of these blocks can be unpredictable with their rotations.
Don't tease her, Dreamcast Sonic. She might snap at you like what she did in front of the others in the last gameplay video.
You're almost there, Amy. You can do it.
The blocks further up look like balloons or ice cubes.
There's the checkpoint. Maybe by then you'll be safe and the token is not so far. I can hear it.
Easy, Amy. Easy. It was one fall and we got plenty of time left too.
Patrick's floating block challenge also has a time limit, unlike the SpongeBob challenge. At least it actually pauses while you fall into the endless ditch.
If my Amy was playing this game, she'd go all in drinking her Mountain Dew game fuel, but since we're in Mexico, she'd get their Coca-Cola or Sundrop.
Or a root beer or an orange soda. But if it was Knuckles, he'd drink a Red Bull or a Monster Energy drink.
There's a lot to accomplish in this game, and I think we're gonna need a lot of snacks to keep us fueled.
Here we go again, Amy. You have to time the jump
Oh,
right
shit,
as the
Mom.
block is flat and you know what to do. Gotta go fast.
Woo! That was close. I thought I was going to fall repeatedly. Either these ice blocks must be sensitive, or Patrick's feet have intense heat. I better jump and I can hear the token.
You're almost there, Pink Land Critter.
Those tokens are valuable. I could save some to keep while spending a few on the Sundays.
Quite a fun minigame, Patrick.
This has been Juan CL Productions. The end.